And then, speaking of rappers that we have not heard of. Okay, Brian, you're my conduit to the world of pop culture. They were in Buffalo, New York, Daniel Garcia's hometown. A rapper that is apparently a friend of Daniel Garcia's rapped him to the ring. You, Brian Last, can tell me what the f***. Did you understand one word this guy said? Has anybody ever heard of this rapper? Or is he just some local dipshit? It was like the video footage that they played this last week on the news all over the place of a newscaster actually having a stroke on the air, where the words were just melting. What the fuck was this?
He's a local rapper who's known by fans of rap in other places. You may not know him because you do not like rap.
Was that good rap?
I have to be honest, I didn't pay too much attention to the intro of this match.
It couldn't be good rap. It didn't even sound like he was accompanying the music they were playing. It didn't sound like Castor. Castor's not a multi-platinum recording artist, but I can understand him. And it sounds kind of like he's trying to stick around somewhere in the parameters of the music that is playing. But this guy was just emitting sounds. At one point, I think I heard a goat bleat. At another point, it sounded like a cow was being anally probed.
All right. Well, again, you just seem to hate any musician who does rap that shows up. Ask
anybody. Okay, you didn't pay attention. Ask anybody. This fucking sucked. This was goddamn unlistenable. This was not good rap, if such a thing even exists. This guy was a shits. Had to be.
No, again, you're not necessarily a rap critic. In fact, I'm pretty sure you don't like anything other than Rapper's Delight, so maybe...
All right, I'll tell you what. Somebody out in the cult that likes rap needs to write in and say on a level of 1 to 10, how bad was this fucking guy? I bet you it would be, well, let's say 10 is the worst, 1 is the best. This guy was a 10.5. So here they come for the Ring of Honor Pure title. A secondary championship in a non-existent wrestling promotion is going to be defended on national television for well over 20 minutes. And they had a 3-man announce booth. They then added William Regal and Caprice Coleman. I love Caprice. Put Caprice in, take Sockface out. I love Regal. Let's drop somebody. But anyway, I'm sure this was a fine wrestling match. I'm sure these young fellas worked their hearts out. I'm sure the people in Buffalo were with the hometown boy. But here's what I wrote. A main event on national TV for a secondary title in a promotion that doesn't really exist is probably not the thing they should do the week after the biggest fiasco in the history of their company, for the ratings or the television partner or anything else. So I know what they were trying to do. They were, these guys are going to go out and have a great match and get over. They were going to go out and have a great match according to their fan base that likes the modern style of wrestling, and they were going to get over to the same fan base that they're already over with, because nobody else wants to see two guys that nobody's ever heard of or gives a shit about with no personality have a technical wrestling classic for 25 minutes on a show where we've already seen MJF and Moxley interact. We know we ain't going to see Punk. We ain't going to see the EVPs. They ain't got no names left. Honey, let's turn in early. And about 350,000 of them did, from what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
I believe it was just under 400,000, I believe. I could double check.
So that basically is the yes, and Danny won the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling title in his hometown and cost the television program across the United States of America literally 35% of the audience that they started with. You have any facts and figures to back that up over there?
Oh, hold on. I didn't realize you really did want me to pull it up.
I thought you were looking for that.
Hold on.
Because I don't want people to say that I'm just pulling shit out of my ass here.
Can you pull shit out of your ass for another minute or so? Another 30 seconds or so?
Well, you usually do it just like that. You're goddamn slipping. And, here's something else. And I've said this before, and so somebody may have heard me say it, and they will bring this back and say, well, see, Jim, you said this. Yes, you always, when you're running a weekly wrestling program, you have to at some point sacrifice ratings or potential ratings or the name value of the stars you're putting on the program to get somebody over. And it was always a struggle in the Attitude Era days. We've got competition. Okay, we want to get so-and-so over. He's new in the company. He needs wins on television. That's the way that normal, responsible wrestling promoters and bookers bring their talent in. You bring them in and they win more than they lose first if you want to use them. But then there was the point where but they don't know so-and-so yet. So if we put him out there in a cold match against a job guy, are they going to switch over to fucking Nitro to see if, Scott Hall's going to be sodomized by fucking, whoever? Because they're just crazy over there on that program.
Well, I don't think that was the kind of thing that was happening over on Nitro. But, Jim, I pulled up the quarter hours.
But I'm just saying that's the thing is you had to talk Vince into sometimes let's give this guy a 6-minute match to get over because he has to. Everything can't be the goddamn main event. Everything can't be a house on fire. And that's where you would make trade-offs. But you don't take your main event position and the last nearly 30 minutes of your program, regardless of how talented the guys are, to get two underneath and or barely known fucking guys with no track record over by having a great match with each other. That only works for the fans you've already got, Tony. You don't need any more of them because you got them. You need everybody else. What were those numbers?
These numbers are quite telling. Let me first give credit to the source for these. Brendan Thurston from WrestleNomics. These are the quarter-hour breakdown, September 7th, 2022, AEW Dynamite. The show began 1,221,000 viewers for Tony Khan's opener and MJF's promo. And I think this is part of the story because we always hear about the key demo, so for once I am going to bring it up here. 608,000 in the key demo to start. Do you want it as we go through the show, or do you just want the first and last?
Well, let's go through and see where various people gave up the fucking cause.
And looking at this, too, if you wanted to book a show so that people would tune out, this is exactly how you do it. First segment, 1.221. Second segment, 1,171,000 for the Moxley promo and the beginning of the Death Triangle versus the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. The next segment, which is more of the which is more of the Orange Cassidy and Friends Trios match. And this is also the Dark Order, Andrade and Rush angle. And then a Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter video. We've now dropped down to 1,080,000. Coming out of that, we got Penelope Ford versus Toni Storm, as well as a 2.0 video and the beginning of the Acclaimed. 989,000. Following that, in the 9 o'clock hour, Wardlow versus Tony Nese, Wardlow promo and the beginning of Danielson versus Hangman Page, 998,000, so a slight tick up there, the only segment that moved up. Coming out of that, Danielson versus Hangman Page, back down, 984. The finish of that match, as well as Jungle Boy and the Stokely Hathaway thing and the beginning of Garcia versus Yuta, 959. The final segment, Garcia versus Yuta, 881. A drop from 1,221,000 to 881,000. And I brought up the key demo, 18 to 49-year-old males, a drop of 608,000 to 407,000.
So across the board, about a third of the viewers from start to finish. A third of the demo, a third of the total viewers.
He's pushing Garcia and Yuta like they're his Eric Watts.
Ooh.
They're not ready. I don't care how. Eric Watts didn't have any fans. These guys at least have people who are rooting for him, guys who want them to be doing good things right now. They're not ready for this because the fans aren't ready for them to be doing this right now. You're not elevating them. You're taking the show down.
So anyway, that was the show, and we've established the predicament and the pickle that Tony and AEW is in. They've made all the news for all the wrong reasons, and you got to keep up with the wrestling news every day. That's what you got to do. Don't you got to keep up every day, Brian, with the wrestling news?
I would think that would be a very wise thing to do. Of course, the Wrestling News, a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling News podcast, available now wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Look for The Wrestling News or go to thewrestlingnews.com. We are now on Twitter, at Wrestling News AV, of course, AV for Arcadian Vanguard. And thank you to everyone over the last week and a half who has checked out the show, subscribed to the show. We are very happy with how we're doing, but we're always trying to improve the show. We have corrections every episode when we get things wrong, and it's just the news, just the facts. So every morning, 10 to 15 minutes, get everything you need to know about wrestling without any agenda, without any spin from the Wrestling News. Once again, you can get it at thewrestlingnews.com or look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News wherever you find your favorite podcast. I'm happy to say, Jim, this week, our first week, we were able to break some stories with AEW and this backstage altercation, and we'll probably be breaking a lot more in the future. Stay tuned for that. We're expanding our team. We're looking for more members, and we have a lot of things planned. The Wrestling News. And of course, in general, it's another fine week of wrestling programming on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership! Yeah, I think I may have to produce an episode or two pretty soon, so go through the archive today at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Go through all of our shows, find out why people know, why people say Arcadian Vanguard is quality programming. And of course, the Wrestling News, thank you to everyone. And of course, thank you to our amazing team at the Wrestling News. And very, very happy. Have you had a chance to check out the Wrestling News?
I have, and I'm a little pissed off about the Wrestling News because it took one of my spots as the top podcast in the nation last week.
Oh, but that chart's bullshit.
Well, I know, but I still like to be on top of it. Nevertheless, so